President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration is set to allocate 8.63 billion for ministers' salaries and allowances over the next 4 years, according to a report by the Daily Trust. This figure could rise pending a review by the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Experts have also argued that having 48 ministers contradicts Tinubu's promise to reduce governance costs as it strains resources and potentially neglects the needs of Nigerians who are currently grappling with economic hardships. This is the first time since 1999 that a federal cabinet has comprised of 88 ministers compared to the previous 42 or fewer ministers. Daily Trust analysis also shows that the government will spend billions of naira on other things like escorts, furniture, vehicles, housing, among others. Calls for reduction in cost of governance have been on the increase, with suggestions to implement the Orosanya Committee's recommendation and streamline ministries, departments, and agencies so that resources could be channeled towards providing basic necessities to millions of Nigerians. Elsewhere, former Zamfara State Governor Mohammed Bello Matawalle is determined to prove his critics wrong following his appointment as Minister of State for Defense. Some individuals had criticized his appointment due to his handling of security issues during his tenure as Zamfara Governor. Despite this, Matawalle is confident in his abilities and says he is committed to securing the country. Speaking at a reception in Abuja, he addressed his critics, stating he had people questioning whether he or the Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru Abubakar, are fit for the roles as defense ministers. He claims that the naysayers do not truly grasp the intricacies of security. Matawalle emphasized that determination, courage, and opportunity matter more than doubt. He recalled his purported successful security efforts as Zamfara Governor, where he claimed the state remained secure for extended periods. He asserted his deep understanding of security matters and expressed his commitment to fulfilling his responsibilities. Also, on a different matter, the YAGA Africa has identified 5 big issues which shape the 2023 general elections. In its report titled Dashed Hopes, with a question mark, of course, the YAGA Africa report on Nigeria's 2023 general election identified the new election legal framework, electoral technology, the Naira redesign policy, voter suppression and violence as some of the major issues which impacted the general election. And on the program tonight, we are joined by the Program Manager Elections at YAGA Africa, Paul James. He will be giving us more insights on the report as well as on other issues. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for
We're happy having you once again in our studio.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Good. Viewers, we'll take a short break, and when we return, the conversation commences. Don't go away. Welcome back. Yes, Paul, before we go to your report, of course, we brought you to the studio because of it. You have seen our tidbits. The first one is on the money that ministers will guzzle. Just salary over 8.6 billion. Is it worth it?
Well, I hope the government also is not trying to contradict itself. In one breath, it had been clamoring for a leaner government and to reduce the cost of governance, and in the other breath, it's now the government that has the over-bloated, if you like, Federal Executive Council.
Yeah.
In the last regime of President Buhari, it was 42. Before then, during Jonathan, we had 33. So this has been the biggest.
In fact, when we were putting the story, even at the last hour yesterday, we had to check and check and check.
No, this is the biggest.
Yeah, Jonathan had 33.
33,
we have it on the screen. Tinubu 48. He has dwarfed even Obasanjo.
Yeah, so that's just at variance to most of the commitment that we have seen the past administration and even the Tinubu administration have done. None of them had made that bold, have taken that boldness or that initiative to implement the Arosanye report that had recommended for a leaner and slimmer government. And then, of course, if you think about how the economy is in dire strait and also the need for us to begin to cut our coat according to our clothes, then, I mean, I think the government didn't get it right this time around. Don't forget that all of these ministers that are appointed, we got about 13 of them that are ministers for state, and then the rest are the
cabinet, yeah.
Cabinet, of course. And then
cabinet status, yeah, I mean senior ministers. Senior
ministers. Think about how they are even going to manage themselves and the friction that may come from some of these.
That is it. I asked this question, whether there is relapse in the process of putting some of these things together. You have two governors who were chief executives of their states.
Exactly. I was waiting to see what the terms of reference will be for this appointed ministers, because sincerely, if there is no clear-cut definition of what their roles could be, I see them really going to be...
because all of them are people in their all right. And remember, maybe I think the threat issued by Keyamo, that was how he managed to get
actually going
senior
to,
position.
Beside even the threat, one of the statements attributed to him during the validatory session after the expiration of their tenure with President Buhari, he alluded to the fact that he doesn't think this is even constitutional to be having ministers of state. What the Constitution recognizes that we should have representation from every state. And for me, sincerely, I thought even having 37 could have even have, for me, it would be fair, but may even be beyond what Nigerians expected.
Yeah.
We can't continue to, we have over 1,400 ministries and departments and parastatals. And then think about, even for the ministers that are appointed, if you begin to think that all of this are coming with their aides, I saw the list of the other, I mean, the list of
parts. The furniture they are going to, and Estacot, you know, they are pensioned for traveling.
So think about all of this. Who bears this cost? Taxpayers.
You and
money.
me.
Of course,
because you pay tax, I pay tax. Yeah.
Of course, Nigerians would definitely bear this cost. So I think it is high time. I know the appointment is not complete. The president had wanted to appoint 48 at the moment.
And actually, we did our estimation based on that number, 48, because already he has submitted names. If not for the glitch, you know, he will have sworn in 48. But what can we do now as Nigerians? Because, of course, he has promised to, you know, revamp the economy by saying that quite a number of agencies will be brought together. You know, one of his aides alluded to Federal Inland Revenue Service, Customs, and NIMASA to take them to one place. But they are now expanding the frontiers. Even the ministries, you can see, we have additions now. We brought a guest, I think yesterday or the day before. He was saying, unless, it was yesterday, unless something is done, there will be overlapping responsibility.
No, definitely.
I cited an example of two ministries that all have innovations in the nomenclature of the...
You have two ministers that are ministers of steel, for instance. You got also now here...
Okay, you are talking about the solid minerals and then the Minister of Steel.
And then you got also, these are ministries that used to be together.
Yes.
Right? So that's why I said there has to be clear-cut responsibility. It has to be clearly stated what each ministry will be doing. You got the youth and sport that also used to be...
You now have sports.
And now you have sports, you have youths. So there also have to be a change of nomenclatures and all of that. I know how
creation of
space, office space.
You know, there was drama. We reported it on the day they assumed office. I think at the Ministry of Transport. You know, Oyetola was there, and the other Minister of Transport, he was also there. Okay. So it was a bit. Even the parking lot for the ministers, you know, it became an issue because all of them senior ministers. This one transport. This one
marine and blue economy.
Yes.
Yeah. I saw one of the press conferences by in one of the ministries, and how the space was so congested. The ministers, the two ministers, Minister of State and the Minister Senior, were all.
So I find it very difficult to say whether is it Minister of Federal, then this one Minister of State, or is it junior and senior? Then what parameters they use?
They are all professionals.
You can see a certain minister who was actually a senator, right? Now, junior minister.
I begin
then
to ask the
someone
question, actually,
who is his senior, I think, did not, I think, to greater extent attain his pedigree in terms of...
what was the rationale? Even for them, what was the motivation? I thought that will have a more, they will have more immune protection as senators, and they are even, security of office perhaps as senators or as ministers, because anything could happen tomorrow, we don't know, and then the president could even decide to tell
But
them.
as a senator, you are guaranteed 4 years.
You are guaranteed 4 years as a senator.
You can only be suspended.
I have just tried to imagine what was the rationale, what was even the motivation for them to, is the motivation about them having control to more resources, or maybe the power that comes with some, because already we have seen some of them, even before stepping into the office, are beginning to warn us and rain fire and brimstone on people about...
Referring to maybe number one citizen FCT number one citizen.
FCT number one, telling us that he's going to take
our landlord,
people's land if they are not able to build in 2 years and all of that, giving marching orders and all of those things. So I think...
So what can they do, Paul, to actually swallow some of their wishes, because I think they all have a lot so that they can reserve some of these resources for the wider population.
I tweeted about this yesterday. For most of them, I think they shouldn't put the cart before the horse. They needed to even go and understand the issues. Some of them are over-promising and without even understanding what challenges are ahead of them as even ministers. I think first there need to be that understanding, and then set realistic timelines as to when to attain some of the milestones that they want to achieve. As Nigerians, I think that is all that we expect from them. We need to begin to learn how to manage expectations. We don't expect that everything will change overnight. So as we move along with them, what are the issues? What are the pressing issues in Nigeria? What I see actually happening at the moment is everybody wants to compete with the other. Everybody wants to be the best.
And the president wants to satisfy every other person. Because some said that some of these appointments were based on political expediency. That, I have to pay back the favors I got from these people, that they will continue to give me that favor. But is there a contradiction between what is happening and the purported implementation of the Obasanjo report?
Well, of course, a huge contradiction between that, because even on the part of the president, as far as I'm concerned, he had failed in one of his promises to reduce the cost of governance, unless there is something he knows as a president that we don't know. Maybe in the next 2-3 months, we are going to see boom that Nigerians don't expect, but within the available resources that we think we have at the moment, we should see the boom first before you think about the expansion.
And should he put on hold the works ongoing at Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission, because they are, of course, working on, improving the package of ministers? Well,
I think for any sane president, it is ideal that should be what to do. We all understand how challenging things could be, and what the economy is at the moment. But I don't think it is the appropriate, this is the time to begin to talk about salary increment. Go with whatever is available at the moment until we are able to regenerate or generate more revenue. That to a large extent will satisfy.
Even the increase should go to Nigerians.
Exactly, not to the people at the top.
It's all right, thank you, Paul. Let's discuss briefly the fireworks around former Zamfara governor. You can see he's also firing salvo at naysayers. That he's going to prove them wrong. Is the placement really appropriate? You have two governors, of course. Badaru, former governor of Jigawa, of course, no security threats in Jigawa. Then you have Matawale from war-ravaged Zamfara as Minister of State. Some say it's actually a booby trap for him by the president.
Well, I also hope it is not just a function of bringing our friends closer. Political expediency, as we will continue to say, because sincerely, I thought for ministries as ministries of defense, you also want to have some person that have some experience in managing security-related issues. Granted, he has his own challenges in Zamfara State. If you look at the region of the Northwest, if you think about the state that have some a relative sense of security, even amongst the ravaging security concerns there, you got Kano, you got Jigawa. To some extent, they are the ones in the middle of the states in the region. And I will say to some extent, in the last 8 years, Badaru had been able to manage the security concerns.
Honestly, if you give him 99%,
of course,
it will be wrong.
So I think for him, it's a function of, okay, whatever experience he had in managing security in the state, perhaps he could replicate it in the center. But for Zamfara, I think for me, it's a huge contradiction that this is a state that is constantly in the news over the last 8 years. Even before Matawale, Zamfara has constantly been in the news. And what yardstick did the president used to measure the level of success in managing security?
Maybe for tutelage purpose. We don't know. One day I'm sure he will say it, to say, okay, Badaru has done it well. Okay, go and work with him. No, I don't. Maybe you learn a lesson.
Well, I think I would disagree with him. That is what he wants to do. This is not, governance is not about coming to learn the work.
Okay, we should come ready.
Exactly. Whoever is coming into governance is somebody that is experienced, have learned the ropes. Give it to them. For all of them, like you had also mentioned earlier, by their own rights, are people that have experience. It is a big thing for me to say you govern a state, you manage a state. And then to bring that experience to the center. But then we should also, for me, learn to put round holes, balls in a round
round peg in a round hole.
Exactly. So this is what I expect that the president will do. Look for, in fact, a lot of criticism about it, even about the educational qualification, for instance. Me, what matters for me is about the experience. Having maybe worked with him in the political space for a while, the president will have asked even the collaborators around to ask what is the place that is best fit for him, and not where we thought is the major concern. It should be the major focus or major concern of the president. Because as a country, if you fix security, if you fix the problem of economy, to a large extent, Nigerians will sort the rest.
Exactly. Some say it was actually a very big compensation because Matawale was able to deliver Zamfara to Tinubu. Unlike even Katsina, unlike in Kano, unlike in Sokoto, where APC was roundly defeated. But
on the contrary, election, I think on the contrary, I beg to disagree. I just feel it's just a way to continue to keep them within the cycle, help them. Some of them are people that still have case with the EFCC.
Yes.
To help them to continue to cover up for all of those things and help their issues, prolong them as long as the president wants to keep them away from the EFCC. But I don't think they're also going to run forever.
All right. Thank you very much. I hope they see this as a challenge. You know, these salvos fired at them by Nigerians and some of you analysts to say, okay, let's prove them wrong. I hope what he says at his reception will come to pass to prove us wrong, that after all, serving at the federal level is completely different. The resources are there, so I'm going to deliver. Thank you, Paul. Now let's go back to the business of the day, your election report 2023. Why is it coming a bit late? I don't know. You just release it. Yeah, and you call it dashed hops with a question mark. So 2 in 1. Why is it coming now, not much earlier? And then why the title, dashed hops? You are still asking the question, or you were able to find the answer in the report?
Thank you very much. The first question, why is it coming now? We see election sincerely as an ongoing process, not as an event. And so we thought it is important that we take our time to understand the issues after the election, to be able to articulate the issues and have them all encapsulated in the report. So if you read through the report, what we try to do is to reflect our findings in the pre-election, our findings on election day, and our findings post-election. And beyond that also is the fact that, other observer groups have also released their own reports.
Yes.
So sometimes you don't want to also make it look like there is this
a contest.
or competition in this space. So, I mean, that wouldn't be a better time than when we release the report. And so, given that also the issues that were reflected in our report are similar to what others have echoed.
Yeah, because I have that question to say, is there anything in your report that is significantly different from other observer groups, so like the European Union?
Yeah, you asked the question, dash hopes.
Yes.
Of course, we thought that is also why we want to take our time now to go back to reflect.
Oh.
That if you reflect, as much as we have our grievances about the election, that there are still some aspects of the election that are still okay to a large extent. There are also still some aspects of the election that we need to work on. Like I will have always continued to maintain, election is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
We have made some measurable progress since the last decade. This is not where we were in 2007, for instance, or in 2011. Incrementally, we have seen progress in different aspects of the election. While we are not where we are, we thought it is important that we don't also have to wait until close to the elections to begin to do episodic engagement of the process.
Yeah.
Can we begin as stakeholders to reflect on the election to see what were those aspects that worked? What were also those aspects that didn't work? People will have their opinion about the election. A lot of people think that there are more aspects that did not work than the aspects that worked.
Yeah.
So can we begin to spotlight those aspects of the election that did not work and to see how are we going to make them better? You asked whether there is any aspect of our report that is different from other reports. Well, I have also been able to glean through most of the reports that have been released so far. What we try to do, like I said, is to have a connect between what we saw in the build-up to the election.
Yes.
Recall before the election, starting from October of last year, we deployed long-term observers.
Yeah, when I was going through that, it was huge.
Yeah, so we deployed 800.
Carry on. Yeah,
822 long-term observers that started observing from October through October 2022 to February of 2023. So we document long-term observers.
When there was not much happening.
Exactly.
But they were observing the trajectory.
Every fortnight, every 2 weeks, you put together a report. We release about 5 or 6 reports from the pre-election observation leading to the election day. Election day, of course, different dynamics. There was the presidential election and how people perceive the outcome of the election. There was also the March 18 election, governorship elections in 28 states, and then, of course, the Adamawa state election, the supplementary election.
Yeah.
So it is not every report that may be able to capture all of this. So we observe every aspect of the process, and importantly, also, like I said, we observe the post-election. So we decided to put that to what you may call like a compendium of all our election observations.
Which we will dissect one after the other. But I want to know, because you said you deployed 4,860 non-partisan election observers.
Yeah.
You also had 48 state focal persons across the 36 states. You had 3,916 polling unit observers, 42 master trainers, and 84 data entry clerks.
Yes.
Wow. How did you get these people?
Exactly. Thank you very much. Fantastic question. In fact, Young Africa's deployment was even beyond what we had in our report, because there was another aspect of our observation that has to do with even tracking the election day findings that was submitted to the INEC online database. ERAD, Election Results Analysis Dashboard. So we had the dashboard like a screen, where as the results were coming in,
just where we normally display ours.
Exactly. So we had something like that too, and then we got analysts that were analyzing these reports as they were coming in. So for that deployment, we had over 1,700 Nigerians.
Wow.
Yes, that helped us here in Abuja to be downloading these polling unit level results and putting them on the computer where the automatic analysis is run, and then the analysts are able to speak to that. So if you put that number together, we deployed over 6,000 observers for the election. I like the question, how did we get them?
Yeah.
If there is something we take very serious, it's about how we recruit our observers. These are Nigerians, number one, to be very clear. They are all Nigerians. that were domiciled in the respective location. So we deploy what is called the parallel vote tabulation for the election. Now the nomenclature has changed to process results verification for transparency. All that does is to recruit observers from a sample. Whilst Nigeria has over 176,000 polling units, of course, nobody will have the wherewithal to go to every polling unit. So we prioritize quality over quantity. And
it's not about the number of people you deploy, but the quality
of their report, quality of their deployment. So we do what people do in the everyday life. We do sample. We took a sample of this. This sample was well representative to the effect that every local government was reflected in our sample.
Every local government?
Every of the 774 local government was in our sample. So while we might not be able to be in every polling unit, there is a reflection of what happened across.
It was scientific.
Scientific, exactly. So for the sample, we sampled 1,507 polling units across Nigeria. But for every of those samples, because of the number and the fact that we want to ensure we get the highest quality of data from those samples, we recruited 2 observers from each polling unit. For the 2 observers, they must check and confirm they are sending the exact report from the polling unit. Yes, we have.
It's not just one per polling unit.
No, for the 1,005, that's why you have the 3,014, 2 persons per polling unit. So they check, the servers check to each other. And when they send the report back to us, we have different layers of check. We have a quality assurance interface that is embedded in our database that also check to confirm that the observers are reporting from the exact location. For instance, if I'm supposed to be in Tudun-Wada and the polling unit code in Tudun-Wada polling unit is 001, Yaga Africa already has that information. So when the observer reports from that location, Yaga will confirm whether the observer is reporting from the exact location. If they are not at the exact location, we then refer them to where they should go and report from. So these 3,014 are stationary in one location. You got 822 that serve as mobile observers. They were in all the local governments. They were in all the 36 states and the FCT. They were observing the process and also reporting critical incidents. So for every incident that happened, they report back to the database, and then we escalate immediately for the ones that would require immediate attention. So this was for the presidential. For the governorship election that happened on March 18th, we also deployed observers across all the federation, all the 28 states that had election. We had 525 observers in 25 states. So each local government had one of our observer in 25 states. And then 3 states, Kano, Delta, Kano, Delta, and Benue. Sadly, no Lagos. Kano, Delta, and Benue.
People have, they have this penchant of sampling Lagos and Kano.
So for some reason, we didn't expect Lagos would go the way it went. It was an oversight from us. We thought to focus on Kano based on the history of 2019. Exactly. So we did a sample also in Kano. We sampled 300 polling units in Kano. So we had 348 observers in Kano. We had 325 in Delta, 327 in Makurdi. If you pull all of these numbers together, that will give you what we have. So in addition to that also, when the supplementary election happened, we were in Adamawa State. We were in all the local government in Adamawa State. We observed until the collation. So for each of the election, we don't just stop at the polling unit. We observe the 3 layers of observation. We go to the collation centers, get report from the collation centers, and send. So we are the local government collation centers, we are the state collation centers. So for every aspect, Yaga will be able to at least speak to what we saw or what happened at those layers of election.
You said the 2023 election is one of the most meticulously planned since 1991. INEC produced a 4-year strategic plan and a detailed election project. This is a very good commendation. I'm sure the chairman will be very happy.
For INEC, yes. This is also based on what the commission had also been saying, and we follow through what the commission said it will do. And this is also premised upon, if we like, what stakeholders have done to get us to where we are. We had a new electoral act, for instance, that came after more than 7 years of intense advocacy. Recall in 2014, 2015, we got some review to the old electoral act, 2010 electoral act, by President Goodluck Jonathan, that people didn't even get to know about because that review was done the week of the election.
Yes.
By 2019, we were supposed to have another review by President Buhari. That process went through an 18 months of gestation. The process of reviewing or not reviewing the electoral, and then suddenly the president said it was too close, that based on ECOWAS or AU convention, you cannot change electoral law 6 months to the election. That It was too close, and the president did not get to sign the reviewed electoral act into law, the 2010. So we lost those opportunity. So for 7 years, there has been the consistent advocacy by stakeholders to get us a new electoral act. And then based on that electoral act, of course, if you think about one of the big things that it did is to first revolutionize even how elections are conducted by stipulating timelines as to when things should be done.
Yeah, the timetable.
Timetable, exactly. For INEC, for instance, the electoral act says INEC has to plan for the election 360 days before the next cycle of election. In addition to that, INEC came up with its own guidelines for the election. In the INEC guideline, INEC said election now in every election year, election will be conducted in the 3rd February for presidential and National Assembly. 3rd February of the election year, 3rd week of February in the election year. And then second, 2 weeks after that, we will do the other state election. So you have all of those documented. And based on what we saw that happened, the moment the president signed the electoral law act into law, INEC swung into action. Immediately, the commission released timetable for the election. Upon releasing the timetable, the commission started also planning. It went on to do continuous voter registration exercise, if you recall. Although that started actually before the signing, it started in 2021 through 2022 and all of that. But while all of those was happening, the procurement process, as much as they were not open, to some extent, we believe that the commission was doing things as expected by Nigerians. Communication wasn't as frequent as expected from the commission.
Everyone we brought here says the communication was really not encouraging.
Not encouraging,
despite
but
the efforts they made.
But if we think about the expansion of the polling unit to increase access to voters, the review of the even the voter register from 84 million to 93 million and all of that, we thought there was that intentionality to give Nigerians the election that Nigerians deserve. But of course, it didn't turn out the way that people wanted.
But how do people want the election? We keep asking this because the conversation keeps coming up. Just, about 10 days or thereabout, all eyes on judiciary by some supporters of some of the aspirants, even though they claim it is from diaspora or whatever. Now, just a day or two after that, the action of the federal government to bring down some of those billboards, we had an incident in Kano where, a judge in one of the tribunals said that they are about to be induced. It's like in all these cases, INEC is in a tight corner.
Well, so there could be a reason for that. And this was because I mean, in my years of following elections and observing elections.
And you have done that a lot, both within and outside the country.
I don't think there is an election that generated so much interest as the 2023 election for a number of reasons. The moment the commission started deepening the use of technology in the election, they were able to catch some certain demography, that is young people. They were able to arouse the interest of young people in election. If you think when we did the CVR exercise, for instance, at some point the commission had to extend the CVR based on the sort of appetite that people had in the process and the number of persons that came out to participate in the CVR exercise. And then another thing that could have led to that is the fact that people paid attention this time to what happened at the political party level.
Yes.
The moment party primaries started happening, and then the sort of outcome of the party primaries is galvanized a new wave of interest again in the election, especially on the part of young people. We saw how they took to the street to show their support to certain candidates or to show how they align with certain parties. So they followed through until the election day. And then what happened in the presidential election could have dampened hope because people came with a lot of expectations for the election. And then we saw what happened in certain quarters. In some part of the country, the commission didn't do well. There are reasons for that, which I'm sure maybe we may still have to discuss as part of our report. There are things that led to that. In the build-up to the election, for instance, there was a Naira redesign policy of the president.
Which is one of the factors you mentioned. You have 5.
That was ill-timed as far as we're concerned. As far as we're concerned, it was politics somersault. This was done very close to the election. This was done, according to the president, to mop up the excess liquidity from circulation.
Allegedly,
but even his party, even the party thought he was doing that to sabotage the party. Now, you come to an election that people were not even able to travel because they could not access cash. A lot of Nigerians were unbanked. Even for the services that you need for the election, the Security also complained there are places that are unbanked and they need physical cash to be able to mobilize their people to go out. INEC also complained they need cash. The CBN promised it was going to provide this liquidity to INEC before the election. INEC was not forthright. INEC didn't come out to tell Nigeria whether it got the money or not. But there were signs even before the election that could be a problem. For observer groups that went round to the INEC rack centers across Abuja to observe the process of deployments, we at Yaga, for instance, saw in some location that the electoral officers complained they were not able to access physical cash.
Which is necessary.
Necessary for deployment. And there are people were complaining that without cash, they will not go out on election day. Perhaps that may have been one of the reasons why we saw late commencement of polls. Beyond that also, in some part of the country, as you will see in the Yaga report, we flagged late commencement, especially in the South-South and in the Southeast geopolitical zone. In the Southeast, for instance, across most polling units, by 9:30 in the morning, elections have not started. Only about 10% of polling units had started election, voting by 9:30 in the morning. In South-South, only 22% reported they have started voting by 9:30 in the morning.
So is there a connection? Is there a connection between this Naira redesign and then voter suppression? Because I have a feeling that what you meant by voter suppression...
I'll come to the point about voter suppression. Voter suppression even started before the election. But for the Naira redesign, of course, what it did to some extent is to even impart participation by young people. I, for one, know somebody that was in Enugu, but the person registered in Abuja. The person called me that the person wanted to return to Abuja to participate in the election. The person was in the park, but the bus drivers were insisting they don't want transfer, they want cash.
Oh my God.
I said there was no how I could help. Even we were also grappling with the problem. Nobody had cash. I had colleagues that even stopped coming to the office because of course, the KK and
they need
taxes,
cash. You can't transfer.
You can't do transfer. So it was a challenge. So I know people that did not participate in the election because of those reasons. And then on the part of the planners of the election, they also raised concerns about that. INEC may not come out to tell Nigeria, but it was one of the frustrations that the commission had because the transporters insisted they must get 50%, at least 50% in cash before they move.
Because they needed to buy fuel.
Yes.
And in some locations, no banks, so they need cash to buy
before
fuel
the election,
and come back.
We were aware that INEC had also engaged with the petroleum NNPC marketers. They made the commitment to provide fuel before deployment and all of that. There was no communication back from INEC to Nigerians to say this is it. What we expect, we did not expect an INEC that will be 100% perfect. We expect an INEC that will talk to us as people. We also understand challenges with massive deployments. an election, a commission that will come to tell Nigerians this is our situation, so that we manage that expectation that even if things don't go well, perhaps we could make some progress.
I have this feeling that, of course, they didn't manage the communication aspect very well, but do you think that the kind of bashing being channeled towards INEC is fair, considering some of these things also impacted on them negatively?
Yeah, so I was building on that because, like I said, there was huge expectation. Young people were enthusiastic about the process, that it was going to be one of the best elections. The commission on its part, one of the things it anchored on is about technology. I recall what the chair kept saying is the fact that no beavers, no election.
Yes.
No PVC. So we kept hammering on those essential that people have to, because at some point, politicians wanted to sabotage the use of beavers.
Yeah.
So the INEC
Quite a number of people spoke.
Yes.
Even the president, the incumbent president, was not really disposed to the beavers, right?
It was actually the party, the current president, yes. Of
the APC, even the former chairman Abdullahi Adamu, they all raised eyebrow. Yeah.
They raised concerns about the beavers. So the chairman kept insisting, no beavers, no election. So that gave young voters especially some sort of hope. Now, if you think about how, this is also the aspect we flag about technology, how that process was managed. INEC chairman on the 3rd of January, 2023, deployed the last sets of beavers to all the states.
Yeah.
After the deployment, the next thing that will happen is the testing.
Yes.
So between the 4th and the 11th of January, INEC tested these equipments in the states.
Okay.
But didn't tell anybody.
Yeah, maybe for security reasons.
When we approached them, why are people not aware of this? They said it is the routine internal process. It is okay, your routine internal process, but what is the finding from that testing? Again, that report was not made public. At Yaga, we were able to observe in about 14 states, and we sensed there will be problems from that moment, because some states, for instance, states as big as Kano, will report that beavers is not connecting to the network. It appears then like there was a central server where INEC was controlling everything.
Yeah.
Some states like Edo reported shortage of beavers. Some states reported the power buttons were not working, the cameras were not working. Now, it was just an assumption that the commission will have solved all of those issues before the main election. The other thing that the commission did was what they call the mock exercise. But on the 4th of February 2023.
Just
mock
very
exercise
close to the election.
20 days before the election. Mock exercise in only 316 locations out of 176,000 polling units.
You mean the sampling is really skewed?
Yes. Beyond that also, public communication around the mock exercise was poor. Not everybody knew that the mock exercise was happening. When the mock exercise happened, I thought it would have been an opportunity to bring this ad hoc staff to learn the process, to get hands-on experience on how to manage the device. INEC used its main staff, their staff for the exercise. Beyond that fact is also that timing, like we all observed, was poor. Whatever would have been the issue, we thought the commission wouldn't have resolved it sufficiently before the election. When people came for that mock exercise, voters began to discover, they have been moved to another polling unit.
Yeah, I was a victim also.
Exactly. Sorry.
Yeah.
So voter migration happened. By the time we flagged it, what did INEC do? They started sending text messages to people about how to locate their polling unit. How many people were able to get the text message? Beyond getting the text message, how many people understand how to react to the text message?
Exactly, because you need to go to, I think, a certain link that will give you the map and things like that.
I recall somebody calling me from Osun State.
Wow, to help him here.
To help from Abuja, calling from Osun State.
So if I understand, Paul, INEC's communication is poor. Now, this your report came midway to 3 important off-season election, Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo. What lessons are there for the electoral empire? ahead of this election.
If you have read through the report, one of the things we also flagged is the need to audit the election.
To audit?
To audit the election.
Wow.
Yes. We can...
By external auditors or by internal mechanisms?
Yeah, it could take different shape, but then stakeholders should be involved. We need to have a moment of truth to understand what were the challenges from the election. How do we remedify the challenges before we begin to talk about the other elections? What INEC did to some extent that I think I praised them was the fact that they were not talking about, even though Kogi and Bayelsa and Imo planning was happening behind the scene, they never mentioned that until July, when they first had meeting with stakeholders. To some extent, I think they respect the fact that Nigeria was still aggrieved about whatever grounds they had with the last election. But we shouldn't just move away just like that, because that is one thing that we're very good with. We do this and we move to the next one quickly, because Nigerians, whatever is the issue, give Nigerians 1 week, they'll move on to the next issue. But I don't think for election that Nigerians should accept that or we should do that. I think sincerely that we need to go back and review what has happened. And that audit should take a thematic approach.
Okay.
For instance, we said we want to deploy technology. Did we follow all the guidelines or the standard of deploying technology in the election? Because we thought doing a massive deployment of technology, for instance, you need to have a timeline of doing even testing of
and it's like
technology.
you put a lot of emphasis on this because it came second on the 5 areas. Apart from the electoral legal framework, you said technology.
The election was predicated on technology.
But don't you think Nigerians are also overrating the technology, thinking that it will
that's
do
the point.
more
that
than
is
magic?
The point. That's what I'm trying to build on that. I sincerely don't also expect that on the first trial it will work 100%.
Even in the US, it did not. Up to now, Trump is complaining.
Yeah, but then if the commission had been clear in its communication from the word go, and then at every point is providing Nigerians with information. For instance, on election day, it took a tweet from Yaga Africa before INEC would react. By about 7:26 in the evening on election day, Yaga Africa tweeted as the IREF that no result have been submitted on the IREF yet.
For the presidential.
For the presidential. It took about 3 hours before INEC came up with a statement to say there was a glitch.
Yeah.
Up to today, it has not explained to Nigeria what it meant by glitch. As far as we are concerned, it is a technical word. We need to begin to deconstruct some of this, demystify some of this to the level that every person that is a Nigerian voter will understand. That is how you build public trust and confidence in the process. One of the things that we think the audit needs to address is also the part about INEC, the administration, election administration. Or if you like, we'll talk about even appointment into INEC.
Yeah.
Because we need to go back and reflect how these appointments were done.
Yeah.
Some of the appointments were done, if you recall, in July of 2022, President Buhari forwarded names of 19 persons for consideration.
You mentioned it in the report. I have seen it.
Yes.
That many of the presiding officers don't even understand the technicalities of superintending
election.
Things like that. Yeah.
So we need to go back and also review those appointments. Some were done very close to the election. Some have dubious characters. Civil society raised concerns about those appointments. We saw what happened. The person that was appointed for Sokoto State was somebody that contested an election in 2015.
So partisan.
By the time the person was moved to Jigawa State, people in Jigawa protested. They protested. Is that the kind of people
by virtue of him being partisan?
If people don't have confidence in the people that were superintending the election, how will they?
So are you going to be in Kogi, Bayelsa, Imo, and what are your preparations and what are your hopes and fears?
We will be in these states, inshallah, God's willing.
Okay.
At the moment, we are very sure about Imo.
Okay.
Like you know, most of these are dependent on funding, on resources. So we are still looking for funding for Bayelsa and Kogi State. But that also has not stopped us from our engagement. We are in those 2 states. We are speaking
that is Bayelsa and Imo.
And Kogi.
Okay, and Kogi.
We are speaking with our stakeholders in the state, and very soon we'll come up with our report on our pre-election findings so far in those states. And then in Imo, we'll do the deployment. What are the fears? If you look at them, the 3 states have their own peculiarities.
Yeah.
In Bayelsa, we were there in 2019. One of the slogans you hear on the street is that he who controls the waters controls the election because Bayelsa is 70% on water.
Yeah.
It's waterlogged. So whoever is able to have the, if you like...
And most likely you can't swim.
We will survive it and we'll continue to survive. But whoever is able to have the bad elements on their side, perhaps they will have the day in Bayelsa. But those are not the kind of election we want. What happened in Bayelsa started in 2019. Election did not happen in every polling unit. Our report indicated that INEC didn't conduct election in 24% of polling units.
And they announced results.
And they announced results. So we don't want to see a repeat of that.
Okay.
That if there are issues, the commission should be clear enough to tell Nigeria. We are trying to restore public trust and confidence in the election.
Okay, briefly, what about in Imo? The fairs?
Our fairs is the security and that
and all that.
Stakeholders will allow people, the non-state actors in the state will allow critical stakeholders to be able to deploy and do what is right.
And in Kogi?
In Kogi, I'm just worried for the power impunity in the election and the power of incumbency. Although the governor is still not tight, but he has major interest in the election, and we fear that he may want to see how he could push his way through for the election.
And finally, what should INEC tell Nigerians? That, okay, live transmission and all that, but IREV, we saw it's actually photocopy, right? Or screen grab of the
I think
result.
what on the part of INEC, all you need to do is to just improve on this public communication. We don't expect a perfect INEC, but at every point, tell Nigerians these are your challenges, and then together we'll see how we navigate through the challenges.
Overall, we hope for successful elections in Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo. Thank you very much, Paul James, Program Manager, Elections at Yaga Africa. Thank you for coming and for sharing the findings in your dashed hopes. Big question mark there, Nigeria's 2023 general election result. Thank you for coming once again.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And viewers, that's a wrap on today's package. We sincerely hope you found the conversation engaging and informative. And be sure to join Daily Politics Live, airing every weekday, and also our special package on Friday, during which we open our telephone line for you to comment on national issues. Once again, we thank you for watching. Bye-bye. I'm Hamza Idris.